The Japanese rule that may add years to your life, Hara Hachi Bu, the habit of stopping before you're full. Hello, today I'd like to introduce a simple Japanese phrase that has been practiced for generations. A phrase that sounds almost too simple to matter. Yet some people believe it may be one of the reasons certain Japanese communities have enjoyed long and healthy lives. That phrase is Hara Hachi Bu. It means, eat until you are 80% full, not 70, not 90, 80. At first, this idea may sound strange. After all, many of us eat until we feel completely full. Some people continue eating even after that. But what if stopping before you're full is one of the healthiest decisions you can make? Today, we'll explore why this simple Japanese habit has survived for centuries, and what it might teach us about food, health, and even life itself. Chapter 1. Why do we keep eating? Have you ever finished a meal and thought, I probably shouldn't have eaten that much? Most people have. The strange thing is that we often know we're full before we stop eating, yet we continue. Why? Because hunger is not the only thing that controls eating. We eat because food tastes good. We eat because we're bored. We eat because we're stressed. We eat because food is available. In many modern societies, food is everywhere, and our brains evolved in a world where food was often scarce. As a result, we are naturally tempted to eat more than we need. Chapter 2. The problem with feeling full. Most people think fullness is a signal. But here's the interesting part. Your stomach and brain do not communicate instantly. It can take time for your brain to realize you've had enough. This means many people accidentally overeat before the I'm full signal arrives. By the time you feel completely full, you may already have eaten more than your body actually needed. Hara Hachi Bu works around this problem. Instead of waiting for fullness, you stop before it arrives. Chapter 3. A small island that fascinated scientists for years. Researchers have been interested in Okinawa, Japan. Okinawa became famous because many residents lived exceptionally long lives. People around the world wanted to know why. Was it genetics, exercise, community, diet? The answer appears to be a combination of many factors, but one habit stood out. Many older Okinawans practiced Hara Hachi Bu before meals. They reminded themselves not to eat until they were completely full. This simple habit helped prevent overeating day after day, year after year. Chapter 3.5. The Buffet Experiment. Imagine walking into an all-you-can-eat buffet. You may have entered feeling only slightly hungry, but suddenly, something changes. You see dozens of dishes, fresh bread, desserts, pasta, ice cream, even foods you are not planning to eat, and before long, your plate is overflowing. Why does this happen? Because human beings are strongly influenced by what is available. When more food is placed in front of us, we often eat more, not because we need it, but because it is there. Researchers have observed this pattern again and again. Larger plates often lead to larger meals. Bigger portions often lead to more eating. More choices often lead to more consumption. In other words, many of our eating decisions are not as conscious as we believe. Hara Hachi Bu helps us regain awareness. It reminds us to listen to our bodies instead of our Chapter 4. Small choices become big results. Imagine eating just a little less every day. Not dramatically less, just a little. One meal may not matter much. 1 week may not matter much. But what about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Small decisions repeated consistently often create surprisingly large outcomes. This is something many Japanese philosophies have in common. Whether it's Kasan or Hara Hachi Bu, small actions matter. Chapter 5. The Hidden Cost of Excess. Modern culture often encourages more. More food, more entertainment.com, more possessions, more consumption. But sometimes more is not better. Sometimes more simply becomes excess. And excess often carries a cost. Overeating can reduce energy, reduce focus, reduce comfort. What feels good in the moment may not always serve us later. Hara Hachi Bu reminds us that enough can sometimes be better than more. Chapter 6. a lesson beyond food. This is where the philosophy becomes interesting. Because Hara Hachi Bu is not only about eating, it can become a way of thinking. How much work is enough? How much stress is enough? How much consumption is enough? How much is truly necessary for a good life? Many people spend years chasing more. More money, more status, more possessions, yet they never feel satisfied. Perhaps the problem is not a lack of abundance. Perhaps the problem is never recognizing when enough is enough. Chapter 6.5. The Last Bite. Consider the final few bites of a meal. Imagine you have already enjoyed the food. You are satisfied. You no longer feel hungry. Yet a small voice says, just a little more, one more bite, then another, and another. Interestingly, those final bites often provide the least enjoyment. The first bite is exciting, the second is satisfying, but by the last few bites, the experience has usually begun to fade, yet many people continue eating anyway. Why? Because stopping can feel uncomfortable. We like completion. We like finishing what is in front of us. But Hara Hachi Bu encourages a different mindset. It asks, what if satisfaction is enough? Not full, not stuffed, not uncomfortable, simply satisfied. Learning to recognize that moment may be one of the most valuable skills we can develop. Chapter 7. Why enough feels so difficult. One reason people struggle with Hara Hachi Bu is simple. Stopping requires awareness. It requires noticing the moment when desire says, keep going, and choosing not to. This skill is valuable far beyond food. It is the ability to pause, to reflect, to choose intentionally rather than automatically. And in a world filled with endless distractions, that skill may be more important than ever. Chapter 8. A simple experiment. The next time you eat, try something different. Slow down, pay attention, notice when you feel satisfied, then stop slightly before you feel completely full. Not because you must, not because you're dieting. Simply because you're curious. Observe how you feel afterward. Many people discover something surprising. They feel lighter, more comfortable, more energized. Sometimes less really is enough. Final chapter. The wisdom of enough. If you remember only one thing from today's video, remember this. Hara Hachi Bu is not really about eating less. It is about understanding enough. In a world that constantly tells us to want more, this simple Japanese habit offers a different message. More is not always better. Sometimes enough is better. Enough food, enough work, enough possessions, enough stress, enough pressure, enough. Because a good life is not always built by adding more. Sometimes it is built by knowing when to stop. And perhaps that is why this simple phrase has survived for generations. Not because it promises perfection, but because it reminds us of something many people forget. A life with balance is often richer than a life with excess. The next time you sit down for a meal, remember, you do not need to leave the table hungry. But you do not need to leave completely full either. Somewhere in between is a simple form of wisdom. A wisdom that has guided people for centuries, and perhaps it can guide you as well. Thank you for listening.